Oh, oh wow. Zayden, you dog.
Mickey?
I'm making a video!
Oh, okay, honey. That's my big man, always hard at work. God's gift to the world, that's what I always say. People really should subscribe to his channel.
Oh, so you're here too. Well, that's actually good because I wanted to talk to you about the books I've been reading for research. Just research. Smut books are incredibly popular, and if you have a partner that loves to read, there's a good chance they're indulging in erotica. But from what I've heard, that's probably a good thing for you. For those of you who don't know, Merriam-Webster defines smut as obscene language or matter, especially pornographic literature. And yes, there will be censoring in this video, don't get mad at me, I don't want my videos taken down. I want everyone to enjoy it. Anyway, there is a distinction. There are books that are extremely graphic, and there are books that have extremely graphic material sprinkled in. For example, like Fourth Wing or Iron Flame. Those aren't really smut, but have some really graphic scenes. But then you have books like Ice Planet Barbarians that hold absolutely nothing back. Now, I can't lie, after seeing so many people talk about these types of books on TikTok and Facebook, and yes, Facebook still exists, I was curious as to what the fuss was all about. So naturally, I did top-level research into why people love smut so much. I went to the only place I could trust to get the hard-hitting answers to my question. I asked Facebook. And let me tell you, I was not short of answers. The comment section was blowing up with women and even men wanting to express their love for these books. They even gave me their top recommendations. Also, this isn't a smut group, this is just a normal book page that I follow. But before we dive into what people said and what my personal thoughts are about the book I read for research, I'd like to quickly talk about the history of these books and how they even came to be so popular in the first place. As always, if you like this video, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers by Christmas, and I'd be grateful if you help me make that happen. And feel free to drop your favorite smut book in the comments. Tell me what you like about them. I'm Mickey Teller, the masked storyteller and self-proclaimed fancy author. And with that being said, let's begin. Let's go back to the 1700s, when books were still a luxury and forbidden literature started to emerge. One of the earliest examples is Fanny Hill, written by John Cleland in 1748. Fanny Hill is considered one of the first corn novels, and it scandalized polite society. Back then, most of these types of books were actually read by men, since many women didn't have the same access to education and reading materials. Fast forward to the 1800s when romance and risque novels started gaining traction. We're talking about books that tease sensuality without going too far. Most of the time. Thanks to increasing literacy rates, more women started reading these novels, especially ones that featured romantic and forbidden themes. By the mid-1900s, we see the rise of companies like Harlequin and Mills and Boon, which targeted women for their romance novels. These weren't full-blown erotica yet, but they did introduce more suggestive elements and focused on female desire and empowerment. It was like a gateway for women looking for a little escapism. And honestly, the publishers hit a gold mine. Women were here for it, and these stories became incredibly popular. The 1970s and 80s saw the rise of the infamous Bodice Ripper novels, where romance met, let's say, more explicit plot points. Books like The Flame and the Flower by Kathleen Woodwis broke new ground by embracing emotional drama and steamy scenes, often with a strong female character at the center. These novels resonated with women looking for something more intense than what they'd seen before, and they set the stage for smut as we know it. And then in 2011, everything changed. 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James broke every record. This wasn't just about romance. It brought erotica into the mainstream culture, sparking debates, book clubs, and countless TikToks. Mostly female readers embraced 50 Shades as a sort of empowerment and escapism, and it became normal, even celebrated to talk about smutty books. And let's be honest, you know you're onto something big when your grandma's recommending a copy. Why did smut blow up? Well, a few reasons. Number 1, escapism and empowerment. These books offer readers a world where they can escape daily life and explore fantasies. For many women, it's about enjoying stories that focus on female pleasure and empowerment. Number 2, accessibility. With ebooks and audiobooks, it's easier than ever to enjoy these books discreetly, and it helps take away the old stigma. Number 3, cultural shifts. As society opened up about sexuality and female empowerment, smut moved from the shadows and into the spotlight. Number 4, community. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook made it possible for readers to share recommendations and celebrate their favorite spicy reads together. It's a large growing community, and honestly, I'm here for it. Understanding the history gives us context, but how do modern readers feel about smut today? Like I said earlier, I turned to Facebook to find out, and trust me, they had plenty to say. First off, one comment stood out to me as particularly insightful, because someone mentioned in the comments how smut had become a way for women to embrace their sexuality and empower themselves. They pointed out for years women were often shamed or suppressed when it came to expressing their sexual desires, but smut had created a space where women can enjoy these things without judgment. The comment also made an interesting comparison between smut and corn, stating that men tend to be more visual in their preferences, while women lean towards mental stimulation. It's an important reminder that everyone has their own way of connecting with their fantasies, and there's no shame in that. Now, not everyone was open to smut books, which is fine, but they were a little discouraging. So I'll say this. For those of you who turn your noses up to smut, here's a fun fact. Romance is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It makes up 50% of the literacy revenue. That's right, half of the entire book market is fueled by romance. So before you discourage smut or look down on the genre, you might want to put some respect on the name. And to the ones who look down on smut readers, maybe consider getting off your high horse and crack one open for yourself. Who knows, you might enjoy it. But if you don't, that's okay too. If it isn't hurting anyone, just let people enjoy things. Another theme I saw in the comments section was talking about the lack of interest for books that featured only sexual content. People love a good story mixed in with their smut, and I get it. The more you immerse yourself in these characters, the more it feels like you're the one living this life and experiencing these exciting, almost taboo moments. Let's talk about some of the current popular titles. One book that's been making waves is Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. It's a wild ride involving human women and giant blue alien barbarians. Yes, you heard that right. Giant blue alien barbarians. More on that later. Then there's Praise by Sarah Kate, which is part of the Salacious Players Club series. This one has some very bold themes and has been trending hard on TikTok. Of course, we also have books like Fourth Wing and A Court of Thorns and Roses. Like I mentioned earlier, these lean more into fantasy with a touch of spice. So, what do I think of smut? Well, I think the Facebook comment we read first summed it up the best. Men have their corn, women have their smut. Neither is exclusive to any gender. Both give people a way to explore their primal urges safely and on their own terms. And if you got an issue with that, we're all human. Let's loosen up a little bit. And honestly, who's to say one's better than the other? It's about giving people a way to connect their fantasies and feel empowered in doing so. Another trend I saw when reading the comments was how these books help spice things up in the bedroom. So again, like I said earlier, if you have a partner that's reading these books, this may be a good thing for you. And I think this comment speaks to that. So, as I said earlier, I read a smut book. And no, I'm not talking about Fourth Wing. Let me tell you something, this book held nothing back. I'll share my quick honest thoughts, but I do think a full video is needed to properly review the book I read. I have some very strong feelings here, but I don't want to cram them all into this video. And before we dive into my quick review, I want to emphasize that this is the only spicy book I've read so far. My opinions here, both good and bad, don't reflect the genre as a whole. And hey, if you've got a spicy recommendation for me, drop them in the comments. Who knows, it might just end up in a future video. The book I read was, of course, Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. Right away, I was curious as to where things were going to go. Alien barbarians, humans, spicy romance. Let's see what happens, right? Now, as we learned from our Facebook comments, smut is boring without a story. And this book did have a story. Was it a great one? In my opinion, not really. It was simple, but it was there holding things together between all the spicy scenes. I wouldn't necessarily call it bad, it just wasn't particularly memorable. The spicy scenes, however, very memorable. Now, reflecting on the story, there were moments in the book where I couldn't suspend my disbelief. Things would play out in ways that I felt were unrealistic, which I know is funny when we're talking about a book that involves big blue space barbarians, but it was just like the story almost bent too far to justify the spice. It took me out of the moment a few times, and I will say before I go further, I should note that I listened to the audiobook version, and that could have impacted some of the experience for me. Sometimes the tone of the narrator didn't seem to match what the scene was going for. So let's talk about one of the big elephants in the room. There are some dark moments early in this book. For example, one woman is punished sexually against her will, if you catch my drift, for essentially screaming too much. While the characters in the book do acknowledge how awful this is, it's brushed aside pretty quickly, and everyone just kind of stands there and watches out of fear of their own safety, which I understand, but I would have liked to have seen some action taken. It was just weird. Later we find out the woman that was punished had died from being frozen in the snow, and somehow the story frames it as being okay because she supposedly wanted that ending after what had happened to her. Personally, I felt the scene was poorly handled. I get that it was meant to show how harsh this world is, but it just didn't sit right with me. And the audiobook's tone didn't help either. It felt jarring and out of place. I think I just wanted them to either talk about it and work with the character or just not have it in at all, because it was really strange to have this topic in a book that was meant to get people excited. It was just a lot, it wasn't for me. But I do understand that these books are very popular. The whole series is apparently very popular. But okay, let's move past that. We're here to talk about the consensual spicy stuff, right? The big blue alien pleasure beast, as I've come to think of him. Yes, I said it. This guy is basically a walking adult toy.
He's huge, he's ribbed, and he's got an attachment on his attachment. A true pleasure beast.
Think of the largest exotic toys you've seen online, then add a big blue body to them, and you've got a pretty good idea of what this guy looks like. So, the spicy scenes. They were graphic. In this type of book, that's pretty par for the course. But I was still surprised. I'll admit they were pretty entertaining, and they definitely helped when the story started dragging. I found myself laughing at times, not because the spicy scenes were bad, but because the creativity was so out there. But it was hot. Okay, I hear you.
Shut up, Mickey. Nobody cares about your stupid mask and voice and orange sweater and unbrushed hair, and you probably need a shower and...
Where was I going? Oh, right.
Was the book any good, Mickey?
Well, yes. And no. Like I said, the story had glaring issues, particularly around the question of consent that I just couldn't ignore. Once you get past those sections of the book and to the core story, it's okay. Nothing groundbreaking, but the consensual spicy scenes... yeah, they were pretty good. I can see why people enjoy this book and the genre as a whole. It's creative and completely unfiltered. Would I read another Smut book? Honestly, yeah. I think there's potential for me to find something I'd really enjoy. Let's talk about another book that often pops up under the Smut umbrella. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros and its sequel, Iron Flame. I haven't read these yet, but I've heard enough to know they're not really smut. These are fantasy books with what readers call open-door erotic scenes. What's the difference, you may ask? Well, while Ice Planet Barbarians feels like a small story wrapped around frequent sex scenes, Fourth Wing is the opposite. It's a larger plot-driven fantasy story with a few steamy moments sprinkled in. For example, the scenes between Violet and Xaden are emotionally charged and tied to their relationship growth, making them feel natural and earned. The spice is there, but it's not the main event. So let's give a final answer to the big question. Why do people love smut so much? One comment on Facebook said it best. It's the gossip you don't ever get to hear. And that is the video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you made it all the way to the end, please like and share this video and leave a comment. Have you ever read a book that made you blush? Or one that you had to explain was just for research? Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you like this video, consider subscribing to the channel. And please let me know your thoughts on the video. What can I do to improve? What do you all want to hear about? I want to get better at making entertaining content for you all, and feedback really helps me achieve that. So again, I'm Mickey Teller, the masked storyteller and self-proclaimed fancy author. Thanks again for watching.